There's something magical that happens when you stop trying to explain yourself to everyone. A quietness settles in, confidence emerges, and suddenly, life becomes so much simpler. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching this video from, and what time of day is it right now? I would love to know. And if you enjoy this video, hit the subscribe button. If not, at least give it a chance to speak to your heart. The burden we carry without knowing. For most of our lives, we've been taught to explain, to justify, to defend our choices, our feelings, our decisions. We spend countless hours making sure everyone understands why we did what we did, why we feel how we feel, why we chose the path we chose. But here's what I've learned after 6.5 decades on this earth. Most people aren't really listening anyway. They're waiting to speak. They're judging based on their own experiences. And no amount of explaining will change what they've already decided to believe. The 3 types of people you'll meet. In all my years, I've noticed people fall into 3 categories when it comes to understanding you. First, there are those who love you. These precious souls don't need lengthy explanations. They see your heart. They trust your intentions. A simple, "I needed to do this for myself," is enough for them. Second, there are those who are indifferent. They don't particularly care what you do or why you do it. Your explanations fall on ears that simply aren't interested. You could talk for hours and they'd forget it all by dinner. Third, there are those who've already made up their minds about you. These are the hardest to accept, but the most freeing to release. No matter what you say, no matter how perfectly you explain, they will twist your words to fit their narrative. They've decided who you are, and your truth doesn't matter to them. So, tell me, which of these 3 groups deserves your energy? Which ones have earned the right to your peace of mind? What changes after 65? Something shifts when you reach this age. Maybe it's wisdom. Maybe it's exhaustion from years of people-pleasing. Or maybe it's finally understanding that your time here is precious and you can't waste another moment seeking approval from people who will never give it. You start to realize that silence isn't weakness. It's strength. The ability to let people think what they want while you remain untouched by their opinions, that's freedom. I remember spending my 40s and 50s explaining every decision. Why I chose this job over that one. Why I didn't attend this gathering. Why my children made the choices they made. I carried the weight of everyone's potential disapproval like stones in my pockets. Now, I've set those stones down, and my goodness, how much lighter I walk. The art of the gentle smile. Here's a secret that took me decades to learn. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply a smile and a change of subject. When someone pries into your business, when they question your choices, when they push for explanations you don't want to give, you don't owe them anything. A warm smile and, "That's just what works for me," is a complete sentence. You'll notice something beautiful when you start doing this. The right people respect it. They nod and move on. The wrong people, they get frustrated. And that frustration tells you everything you need to know about whether they deserve more of your time. The peace that comes from letting go. I won't lie to you. At first, staying silent when you want to defend yourself feels uncomfortable. We've been trained to explain, to make people understand, to seek validation. But after a few weeks of practicing this gentle silence, something miraculous happens. You sleep better. Your mind becomes quieter. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head, planning what you'll say to prove you're right. Because here's the truth. Being understood by everyone is impossible. Being at peace with yourself? That's entirely within your control. 4 situations where silence is golden. Let me share 4 moments where I've learned that saying less brings more peace. When someone criticizes your choices, you've lived long enough to know what's right for you. You don't need to write a dissertation defending your life. Let them have their opinion. It doesn't change your reality. When family members question how you spend your time or money, this is your season of life. You've worked hard, you've raised your family, you've done your duty. How you choose to live now is nobody's business but yours. When friends don't understand why you've stepped back from certain activities, your energy is limited now, and that's not a character flaw. It's biology. You don't need to justify why you can't do what you once did. When strangers offer unsolicited advice about your health, your appearance, or your lifestyle, smile, nod, let it float past you like a leaf on a river. Their words don't have to touch you unless you reach out and grab them. The difference between silence and secrecy. Now, I want to be clear about something important. There's a difference between healthy silence and isolation. I'm not suggesting you hide from the people who genuinely care about you. I'm not saying you should bottle up your feelings until you burst. I'm not encouraging you to live in secrecy or shame. What I'm saying is this: choose carefully who gets access to your inner world. Share your heart with those who've proven they'll handle it with care. But don't feel obligated to open your diary to every person who asks a question. Quality over quantity. Depth over breadth. Peace over approval.
I'll share something personal. A few years ago, I made a significant change in my life. I won't go into details, because that's the point of this whole conversation, but it was something that affected how I spent my time and who I spent it with. The questions came flooding in, the concerned looks, the phone calls from relatives who just wanted to understand. And I started to explain, over and over, different versions for different people, trying to make them see it from my perspective. Then one evening, exhausted from another round of explanations, I realized something. The people who truly loved me had accepted my decision immediately. They trusted me. The people who kept pushing for more details, they weren't looking to understand. They were looking for ammunition to convince me I was wrong. So I stopped explaining. When the next person asked, I simply said, "It's what brings me peace." And when they pushed further, I smiled and asked about their grandchildren. It was uncomfortable for about a week. Then it became liberating. The ripple effect. Here's something beautiful I didn't expect. When you stop explaining yourself, you give others permission to do the same. I've watched my friends become braver in their own choices. I've seen family members start setting boundaries they'd been afraid to set. By quietly living your truth without apology, you become a gentle example of what's possible. We teach people how to treat us, and when we teach them that we don't owe them explanations for living authentically, we all become a little bit freer. Your permission slip. If you're watching this and thinking about all the ways you've been explaining yourself, defending yourself, justifying yourself, consider this your permission slip to stop. You don't owe anyone access to your decision-making process. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You don't have to make everyone comfortable with your choices. You are allowed to simply be, to make decisions that feel right in your soul without conducting an exit interview with everyone in your life. This is your time. However many years you have left, and may they be many, they belong to you, not to people's curiosity, not to society's expectations, not to family members who think they know better. The simple practice. If you want to start practicing this gentle silence, here's what I suggest. The next time someone asks you a question that feels invasive or judgmental, take a breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Then respond with something simple. I appreciate your concern, but I'm at peace with this. Or, that's personal, but thank you for caring. Or, simply, it works for me. Then, and this is the important part, don't fill the silence that follows. Let it sit there. Change the subject. Take a sip of tea, but don't rush to fill that space with more explanations. It will feel strange at first. Your heart might race. You might worry you're being rude. But you're not. You're being respectful of your own boundaries, which is the highest form of self-care. The freedom waiting for you. I wish I could adequately describe the lightness that comes from releasing the need to be understood by everyone. It's like setting down luggage you didn't realize you'd been carrying for miles. Your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, your mind quiets down. And in that quiet, you rediscover parts of yourself that got lost in all the explaining. You remember what you actually think, not what you think you should think. You reconnect with what brings you joy, not what brings approval. You start living from the inside out instead of the outside in. This is the gift of age. The wisdom to know that being yourself doesn't require anyone else's permission. The courage to stop performing and start simply being. Final thoughts. As I close this reflection, I want you to ask yourself one question. If you stopped explaining yourself tomorrow, what would you do differently? Would you visit that place you've been wanting to see? Would you skip that obligation that drains you? Would you say no to something everyone expects you to say yes to? Whatever your answer is, know this: you can do it. You've earned the right through decades of living, loving, losing, and learning. You don't need anyone's approval anymore. The people who matter will understand, or they'll trust you anyway. The people who don't matter will talk regardless of what you say. So why not save your breath and spend it on laughter instead? Life is too short and too precious to spend it as your own defense attorney. Put down the case files, step out of the courtroom, and walk into the simple, quiet freedom of being exactly who you are. No explanations necessary, no apologies required. Just you, in all your beautifully imperfect, wonderfully authentic glory. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you started letting go of the need to explain yourself? What has that journey been like? Share your story in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to our channel for more wisdom and reflections on living peacefully and authentically in this beautiful season of life. Remember, you don't owe the world an explanation. You owe yourself peace. Until next time, walk gently with yourself.